Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Assalamu alaikum. That means peace be unto you. Welcome to Liberated Sisters. I'm Sister Charlene Muhammad. We're live at Morris Media Studios, and in today's show, we have a very special Eid Mubarak message from the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who closed out the Ramadan prayer line for 2021. Thank you to Sister Nisa, to Anisa Islam Muhammad, to Minister Akbar Muhammad, Abdul Akbar Muhammad, to Brother Mutakir Muhammad, to Brother Jalil Muhammad, and to Brother Shahid Muhammad, and more who helped to bring this line. And please forgive me if I left off any name, but everyone, Brother Student Minister Carlos Muhammad, all of you who helped to bring that prayer line to us, and of course all of the many speakers who enriched us and helped us to get through Ramadan this year. So Eid Mubarak, everyone. Also, following the minister's special message delivered during Ramadan closeout, we will have a Farrakhan Factor featuring a special gift, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with his violin concerto from the Cerritos Performing Arts Center, and that's the Beethoven Violin Concerto. We'll have an excerpt of that, God willing, but first, the Justice Report. If you have your Final Call newspaper, read along with me or go to finalcalldigital.com for your subscription. Here is our cover story, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan Center article, Justice is the Joy of Freedom. The cover story, War is Coming to the Middle East. Here is why it should matter to you. I want to go through that story by our contributing writer, Brian Muhammad. Our staff writer, pardon me, Brother Brian, War on the Horizon, Israel unleashes devastating offensive on Palestinians. Brother Brian writes how the drumbeat of war is once again echoing loudly in the Middle East. World leaders and voices of reason are scrambling to avert what is already deadly fallout in occupied Palestine, where aggression by the Zionist state of Israel has flared up, and countermeasures by resistance groups like Hamas and Islamic Jihad has intensified. That's our cover story, this Final Call newspaper. I want to bring attention. Oh, I wish I had sent Sister Felicia this photograph. Forgive me, everyone, but Allah God gave us a victory, a critical win for truth, Nation of Islam in the United Kingdom case. This by our managing editor, Starla Muhammad, an effort to deny right to hear Minister Farrakhan and deny black human rights ended in defeat in Great Britain. The courage to fight injustice yielded success. This story talks about a message on reparations that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan presented. What does the United Kingdom and Europe owe us? And they were, in the United Kingdom, denied the right. They were blocked from hearing that. So a high court decided on May 10th that Lambeth Council and the Metropolitan Police were wrong to interfere with and block the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan from addressing the Africa International Day of Action that was in London's Kennington Park. That message was on August 5th, 2017. It was a breach of his human rights and the human rights of 34 black British citizens. This is what the High Court said. You got to know this is huge because in the history of the United Kingdom, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has been banned there, and the believers in ranks there. And I'm going to, I'm going to send a shot to Sister Felicia sometime later. We can show you how many believers we have there, and they're just in the photograph. Everyone's not photographed, possibly, right? So imagine someone being banned there, but the message of Minister Farrakhan went through with a cassette tape. One tape message, and people are rising into the knowledge of truth and understanding, and they are being freed and resurrected. So all praise is due to Allah for the victory, and thank you, United Kingdom, under the tutelage there, the leadership of Student Minister Abdul Hakim Muhammad, the minister's representative in the United Kingdom. I promise I will send that photograph, okay? So you'll see it sometime a little bit later in the show. We're going to continue on with the COVID report, and then we will go into the message from Minister Farrakhan, very critical. Of course, the Nation of Islam's campaign against the big pharma and COVID-19 so-called vaccines is don't let them vaccinate you. We won't consent to being guinea pigs. We won't participate in your deadly history. We won't ignore your deadly history. Pardon me. We won't ignore your deadly history. And so the COVID-19 articles in the final call this week starts out. I want to start out with one from myself and our brother editor, Naba Muhammad, the editor-in-chief. And then I will highlight one fierce article from the research team. And so, you know how it goes. I'm turning the pages. Thank you all. The article I want to talk about first is Tricky Vaccine Treats Are Good Old-Fashioned Bribery. Myself and brother Naba Muhammad, the editor-in-chief, we have an article which highlights how our society is just basically outright being bribed to take these shots. But the reason I say our people is because at last count, blacks were about 9%, maybe a little less, but 9% of those who had taken the mRNA, this technology. It's not a vaccine, and voice after voice, expert after expert that I speak to reminds and lets us know that the language is part of the problem, that we are not taking a vaccine. Vaccines, they say, contain a little bit of the live virus, and the body can get some of that inside and then say, oh, we recognize you and attack it. This thing that's going in is a software, as Moderna's chief has said, and they are hacking the software of life. And so at any rate, our article talks about this old saying that you can't get something for nothing in America. When you're dealing with the U.S. government, it is especially true. Are a couple of donuts or baseball tickets worth your future, health, and life? Is life really that cheap? And so here's what you're being given. Here's what we're being given as incentives, right? In Ohio, there's this lottery called Ohio Vax a Million. And what it is promising is to give away $1 million to 5 adults and full scholarships to teens who get the shot. So you got a lottery that says, take this vaccine, we'll put you in a lottery. You could win $1 million. The Kentucky lottery is giving away coupons for free cash ball game tickets to adults who get their first or second vaccine shot at the Kroger or Walmart stores. Never mind that this is something that, as experts have pointed out, should be done in a medical or hospital setting type where you can be monitored right after, but you can get it, walk out, or get in your car and drive through. You can also add to that snacks and foods such as rice, cookies, crackers, chips, and commissary packages at the Maryland Department of Public Safety. So Maryland's correctional services are offering people in prison, inmates in prison, commissary snacks, cookies and crackers, things that loved ones can send. Put your money on their books and you can send them that. But this is what they're being offered in exchange to take this injection. West Virginia is offering $100 savings bonds to 16 to 35-year-olds. New Jersey is offering residents 21 and over who get vaccinated free beer for a shot. I can't make it up. Free beer for a shot. That's what you get over 21. The state of Maine is offering free hunting for, free hunting or fishing licenses. LL Bean is giving gift cards or other prizes to residents who get their shots by Memorial Day. So here's a statement by someone, Deborah Fur Holden. She's a professor of public health at Michigan State University. That is good old-fashioned bribery. This was in a recent article published at bridgeme.com. That's bridgemichigan.com, but it's MI. Most people would do anything for $1 million, and that's not the reason we want them to get the vaccine. Well, the Nation of Islam's position is do not get the vaccine. Don't take the vaccine. That's what she stated, though. That's, look, it's a shame when you go to people who are poor, people who are by and large way below the federal poverty line, even just middle class people. You can even be rich, but you might not be $1 million rich. So some people might say, well, I played the lottery all my life. Maybe this is a better chance. Who knows? But she said that researchers can only offer nominal rewards to subjects for studies. This is in clinical studies for, different drugs and vaccines, what have you, because the reward cannot be so big that participants are blinded to the potential risk. She told the news outlet that the $1 million vaccine lottery obliterates that equation. It's too big of a carrot. It takes choice out of it. It's coercive. So there's more in the story about the bribes and the incentives and, the attack against what they're calling vaccine hesitancy. I want to call attention, and we're getting ready to go next into the minister's special Ramadan prayer line message, but I want to cover next, or go through next, the NOI Research Group's article, From Tuskegee to COVID-19, United States Program of Black Genocide is Unchanged. This is by the NOI Research Group. Please, I invite you to subscribe at finalcalldigital.com. You can read this at finalcall.com. It may be posted there now. It begins, and I'll just go into a little bit of it. You can take the rest up. Quote, then he, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, said to me, brother, you can't fathom the depth of Satan. He didn't use the word devil. You can't fathom the depth of Satan. He never said another word, end quote. This is by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So the NOI Research Group continues to talk about how from the very start of the U.S. government's coronavirus operation, right, Black people had serious doubts about what they were witnessing. At one moment, the article goes on, early in the alleged pandemic, the infection appeared to be affecting whites solely to the point that Blacks believe they may actually be COVID resistant. This sounds familiar, a little bit familiar with the HIV pandemic. Okay. However, but soon the government and the media began flooding the airwaves with claims that Blacks were in fact the most vulnerable of all population groups and that they were dying at higher rates. I want to just pause a minute and say I remember when the news about the demographics came out. People were asking early on, very early on, what are the demographics? Like Dr. Reuben Warren, a bioethicist, the director of the Bioethics Center at Tuskegee University, he interviewed with me for the final call and said, what are the demographics? People after people kept saying, we don't know the numbers. Well, and then the numbers came out. And so it's interesting what the numbers were. All of a sudden, bam, we were the highest groups. I'll give you another graph of that and then we'll move on. Even amidst that sobering news, Black people were deeply suspicious of a government and medical industry that had mistreated and abused them since slavery. They resisted being tested and refused participation in the vaccine trial programs in greater numbers than others. Many of the top health officials, politicians, and corporate heads were filmed condemning those past medical abuses and reassuring their ex-slaves that they had learned their racial lesson and that such atrocities would not, indeed could not, happen again. Though totally silent or hostile to Blacks on the even more devastating issues of rampant police murders, the crack epidemic, the diabetes and heart disease, among many other scourges. These government and big pharma officials insisted that whites were totally reformed and now can be trusted. They specifically referenced the most infamous example of white medical wickedness, the Tuskegee syphilis quote-unquote experiment, a 40-year atrocity in which Black men in Alabama were used by government doctors to spread the deadly and contagious disease of syphilis around the Black population of the South. When the secret program was exposed in 1972, the Muhammad Speaks newspaper headline accurately expressed Black America's collective outrage. Here's the headline: White Animality, Black Genocide, Criminal Experiment at Tuskegee. I won't go any further into the article. It's extensive, but it's piercing and it's true and it's very good, and it outlines the position, which at the end, I will say, is listen to the minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, so as not to be confused. Listen to the minister. Don't let them vaccinate you with their history of treachery through vaccines, through medication. You have no right to trust them. This is the closing quote of the article. Thank you, NOI Research Group, for forever keeping at the forefront what is at stake here. And now let's turn to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with a special message. Eid Mubarak.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Rahmanir Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. O Allah, I thank you for this privilege to be on this line this morning to say a prayer and to give thanks to you for all of the believers in Islam throughout the world who have endeavored under difficult conditions to make the fast of Ramadan. So many have fasted and may not have been able to complete the fast perfectly. But oh Allah, they tried. But Allah is so pleased with any who tried and were not able to complete it for one condition or another. But Allah, the Most High, the compassionate, the beneficent, the merciful, the forgiver of sins, said to the believer, thank you for trying to fast for my pleasure. Thank you for the days that you were able to complete it. Thank you for the prayers that you said. Thank you for what you denied yourself for my pleasure. Thank you for every Fajr prayer and every Maghrib prayer that ended the day. Oh Allah, I thank you for all of those who were successful to complete the fast. So wherever we are in that spectrum, this is the celebration of Eid, where happiness and joy should accompany the believer who tried, the believer who was successful, the believer who said, help me, Allah, to make another day, and they made it. And the believer who did not make it, yet tried. Oh Allah, the Quran says, forgive us if we forget or make a mistake. But it is a time for joy and happiness for this season, and for all of those who are fasting under terrible conditions. I thank Allah for you, and Allah is with you today, you and your children, after the Eid prayer. go and enjoy your company with your fellow believers and say to Allah, thank you, Allah. Thank you. I want to say a few words to you that have been on my heart for many days. I pray to Allah He will guide my words. On the 29th day, the last of the odd night, it was my birth anniversary. And my dear grandson, Leonard Farrakhan Muhammad Jr., wanted to give the believers that which he had been working on with our great engineer in Atlanta, to make the thing that we did 19 years ago that had never been seen by anyone. You could hear some of what we did, but to see it, it was not available. A mischief maker tried to sabotage the performance. And in the middle of the second movement, the fire alarm went off. But we kept on playing. We kept on moving, because Satan is always busy. He's always trying to make it difficult for the believer. The hypocrite is always trying to make it difficult for the believer. We heard the alarm, but we kept on playing. We kept on moving, because our goal was to finish and to make that concerto live. And so, my beloved brothers and sisters, 19 years later, God gave us a victory then, and my son and Brother Winston took what was surely the ruin of a wonderful evening, and they worked. Brother Winston worked, his staff worked, and the result of their work was seen on the last of the odd night of Ramadan. So at this Eid feast, we rejoice, because we labored under difficult circumstances, and what we gave to the world on that night, I would like to read a comment given to me by Brother Abdul Qiyam, who is my social media person. You don't know what we went through to even approach the piece to play it. But when you make up your mind to do for Allah and His sake what it is that you intend to do, never doubt. Because when you make up your mind to do what is right, what is good, what is pleasing in the sight of Allah, He helps you to win. And even when you are weak, Allah says He helped the believers with havoc-making angels that allowed the believers, though small in number, to defeat many, many times greater than their size But with Allah, size does not matter. With Allah, numbers do not matter. What matters to Allah is what you bring to the fight. And so, beloved, after I had completed the Beethoven on that night, I made comments. And in those comments, among those comments, I said, my mother, 1 month shy of my 6th birthday, gave me that violin and told me definitively, you are going to play this. And I said, she forced me. And when I saw the picture of my teacher, I told him one day, dear Apostle, you taught me to play this violin. And he looked at me incredulously and said, come on, brother, you know I never taught you to play no violin. I said, oh, yes, dear Apostle, you did teach me, because you gave me the state of mind that I should approach any difficult task with. And it was what you taught me of who I am, the original man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, the God of the universe. And some that don't understand Elijah Muhammad will say, how could you say something like that? How did Allah say it? He created the sun, the moon, the stars, and all creation, and he laid it at the foot of the human being and said, you can master this. You are my vicegerent. You stand in my place over the earth in my absence. Don't tell me what you cannot do. Get up and do it. And you know, when you make up your mind to do what Allah has given you the desire to do, and you ask him for his help is nigh. There are a few points I want to make. I thank my brother Akbar. I thank him for his struggle during this Ramadan. I thank my brother for all of the great work that he has done in helping me to do everything of good that I've tried to do. Allah always gives you by your side what you need. He gave the prophet companions. He gave the prophet helpers. He gave him wives that believed in the God that he represented. Everything that's around you, that supports you. You never get the victory on your own. You get it with the help of those who are committed as you are to help you with the victory. And so, my beloved family, here's what somebody wrote me. And Brother Kiam, you took it. And people wrote from all over the world. And your brother, he didn't know the effect he was going to have. He just wanted to play that instrument. But I know that everything that happened 19 years ago was by Allah's command. The mischief maker who wanted to destroy it, Allah told him, go right ahead. My servants are going to continue to play. So the mischief maker won for a moment because we couldn't see the performance. But 19 years later, we perform on the last of the odd night of Ramadan. And here's what they said. Dr. Iker, my teacher that helped me with the Beethoven, she said, oh, his music has so much soul. The sound quality was so passionate and so truthful. I just heard love and the truth, and the minister was the truth. Oh, and someone wrote and said these words, and they meant so much to me. Someone wrote and said, I believe in my heart that Ludwig van Beethoven wrote that score exclusively for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who perfected that very difficult piece. When I read that, nobody knows, 250 years ago, a great black man in Europe was born, a mulatto, who suffered, who wanted to die. At one point when he was losing his ability to hear, and every musician knows that hearing is a major part of your ability to compose. And when he was losing his hearing, he wanted to commit suicide. And then something came over him, and he said words like this: I have so much in me to give, so I cannot die because I want to give the world something. And from that point, it is as though Allah took his hand. It is as though Allah took him behind the stars into the vault that is behind the stars, as some say. The treasure of everything is behind the stars, because in the blackness of the black hole, there's always new things coming forth from it. And you can't enter that part of the creation without the help of God. He took Beethoven into the impossible, because only when you do what is impossible have you met with God, because only God can help you to do what the world thinks is impossible to do. 3 years before his death, he completed his 9th symphony. He never heard it played. But when you listen to that symphony, you know that that man met with God. And God took Beethoven into the impossible and opened up the treasure of the brain. And he heard what nobody knew he could hear. And he wrote what was impossible to write. And he had in mind a little black boy, another mulatto. That he wanted to play his concerto. And that beautiful little black boy heard him one day, and they broke the relationship that they had. And the violin concerto went into the dustbin of time. He wanted that mulatto violin player who was one of the greatest violinists of that time that is written out of history. He wanted that one to play a sonata that he had made for him, but in the back of his mind, he wanted him to play the Beethoven violin concerto. 250 years later, another mulatto boy picked it up and said, I'm going to play you. Difficult though it was, yet God put in my heart to do it, and my wife and my children can bear witness. I would go to bed at 10 o'clock and wake up at 1 o'clock and play my violin through the night until it was time for Fajr prayer. And I made my prayer, then went into my gym and worked to develop my physical stamina and stature. But all praise is due to Allah. Here's what somebody wrote. I want to thank Brother Kiam for gathering these words. And somebody wrote this. I believe in my heart that Ludwig van Beethoven wrote that score exclusively for the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, who he thought, the one that's writing, that the piece was perfected when the minister played it. Another person wrote, I have heard all the great virtuosos play. He said, but when I heard Farrakhan play it, I wept. Because there was something in his playing that touched my soul. Some said that they were healed just listening to what God had blessed me to do. I can't speak like that, but I can only reflect to you what others said who were touched, and some even cried and said they were healed. And one of the greatest violinists of all of the 20th century was a little Italian man named Ruggiero Ricci. And Ricci, when he met me, he called me his colleague. And when he did his master class and I was present, he came over to me and touched my heart. And these are the words he said. He said, "Minister, if you go in the prison and play your violin for the prisoners, they will be healed." And so, my beloved, one more quote I'll give, and then, with permission, I want to talk to the believers. And I want to talk to my beloved brothers, the custodians of the Holy Mosque in Saudi Arabia.
That's the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan with a special Eid Mubarak message on the Ramadan prayer line. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan was so full of, he had me pretty emotional, and you could hear the emotion and passion there. And I wanted to keep it to what he shared regarding his violin concerto. We will come back with the rest of the remarks because he goes into what's happening today. Very important message and more guidance for us, but we are out of time for today. I want to let you know also, please accept my apology. I promised to run an excerpt from his concerto. Minister Farrakhan did this Beethoven concerto celebrating the 250th anniversary of Ludwig van Beethoven. Abdul Rasul Muhammad, the general manager for the Final Call newspaper, shared that the post was taken down from his page, the concert. He broadcast it live there on his page, and it was taken down due to copyright. So I don't want that to be an issue. If we put it there, we know it'll be taken down. I want to investigate how I can show you that a little bit more. But for right now, you can go, those of you who are able and want to YouTube Minister Louis Farrakhan's YouTube page, and you can view it there. The hashtag is Farrakhan, hashtag World Premiere. Thank you so much to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for all that you give and do, continually gifting us, but for number one, saving our lives, saving my life. Number two, thank you, Nation of Islam, for continuing to put his messages out. The Final Call for the coverage and continuing to help keep us abreast of what's happening, particularly around this COVID-19 situation and all other things. Look, the national police issue, the brutality, the killings, those things, genocide, none of that has changed. COINTELPRO, so that's all in the Final Call in our national section. And thank you, Brother Abdul Qiyam Muhammad, and thank you to Sister Felicia, the Poetess Morris. I'm Sister Charlene Muhammad, and thank you for tuning in. If it's impacting our community or can uplift us as a people, let's talk about it. Peace.